Okay, here we go. This is the second time I've tried to do this video. It's a bit shaky. It's a bit low tech here. I don't have my regular lighting, so it's a little dark. It was cold outside, so I couldn't really. Well, it was cold and it was buggy. There's a lot of mosquitoes this time of year outside, and I was just going to get chewed up trying to do this out there. Outdoors would have been the optimal spot to do this. So I'm sitting on a mattress, trying to not shake this too much, and it's going to shake anyway. So let me do the best I can here. Um, I should have just waited and done this downstairs with my normal setup, and I didn't. I wanted to get it done earlier. Anyway, um, so I'm back with less of a review and more kind of a question and a discussion. Hasbro, who generally is where I buy all my Transformer toys from. I'm not huge into third parties. I do have a few. Some of them are pretty neat, but mostly I mostly stick to Hasbro stuff. The Chug stuff, as some people would call it, Classics, Henkei, Universe, and Generations. I don't really use the term much myself, but if you do, then you'll know what I'm talking about. And they have been re-releasing a lot of their older toys. A lot of them have been from G1, because a lot of the old G1s have been, kind of limited in articulation, and they break, and they're old, so they've been making new versions with new articulation and new styling and things like that. They've also been going back to some of their earlier ranges from the early 2000s, the pre-2020s, and it's also noisy outside, so bear with me on all the noises that this is going to pick up. But and they've been making new versions of those, and some of them have been pretty good, and some of them have not been so great. The Gamer Edition figures have been really hit or miss. Their remakes and new figures that were included from the old War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron games. The Barricade, who never had a figure before in the original line, has one now, and is probably one of the worst Transformers figures in recent memory. It's just not good. It doesn't have near the articulation. It's blocky. It's clumsy. It feels like an old early generation toy. Um, but So I had the thought: is a re-release always going to be better than the original, or are they maybe going to overthink it or mess around with it, or cause it to be something worse than it is, or is it going to be better? It's hard to say. The new Menasor set from Legacy turned out pretty good. A lot of good articulation. It was arguably much better than the one from Combiner Wars, which there were some pretty good combiners from the Combiner Wars series, but the Menasor was not one of them. The Menasor was, I don't know, it just didn't go together very well. It didn't hold together very well. It just didn't. There was not a lot of good going on with it. The figures individually weren't bad, but the new version, while there are some issues that people have with it, it's definitely better. And I should have brought more up here to show off, but I've only got two figures that I'm going to compare with. Now, I'm not a fan of the Armada, Energon, Cybertron trilogy, the so-called Unicron trilogy. I'm not a fan of the character designs generally. I am not a fan of the shows. I thought they were really bad. And But there were a few figures back when they were out that I was interested in, that I thought, oh, this looks cool. That looks kind of cool, that figure design. So I got a couple. And one of the ones that I got was the Galvatron. This is the original. This is the Armada Galvatron. It's based off of the Megatron mold, which is exactly the same. You'll notice he does not have his little scarab claw headpieces. That's because I don't like them, and I've never liked them. I thought the design was so goofy looking that I took them off years and years and years ago. And I don't put them back. I still have them around here somewhere, and they will go back on. Not very well. They plug in kind of, but Because there's like a gimmick where he'll like his head will chomp while he's in tank mode. I don't know. With this figure, for the time, was not awful. I mean, couple things. He can't walk. Like, he doesn't have any forward, backward leg motion. He has side to side and things, mostly for transformation. His arms are pretty decent, all things considered. You know, and he's got wrist swiveling, which is pretty cool for a figure from that time. You know, he's double jointed elbow. His shoulders move, you know, so he can get a lot of good, decent posing from there, even though he can't do much with his legs. And overall, it's not a bad figure. He's got a lot of gimmicks on him. He's got a lot of gimmicks. You can see a lot of these ports for the mini cons, because you're supposed to plug in the mini cons and they'll do like power things, like swing out the guns and fire off the missiles. And here you were supposed to plug it in, and he would have this little shiv, this little knife that would come in. All right. He's got like spots here that'll open up when he's in tank mode, and like he's got a grabber in here, like a little grabber claw. You got like a little switch here so he can grab mini cons and capture them. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. Little ports that open like all over on this guy. There's things that open up, which is one of the reasons why I liked it. Because even though I'm not a fan of the show, it's a pretty decent figure. There's fun stuff going on, like these open mostly for transformation, but you got this kind of stuff. You have so many things, plus a face mask to cover his face during transformation. You know, there's a lot, and he has lights and sound. Well, he doesn't have sound or lights, but he does have sound. I don't think the battery works, so not really a big deal there. But you know, all in all, for the time, despite the fact that he can't walk, he was a pretty good figure. I liked him. So because I liked him, when Hasbro recently re-released him under their new Legacy United line, I picked one up. As you can see, I've already removed his headpieces. These were glued in, however, so there's now some slight damage to the side of his head, which, you know, I'll own up to. I pried him off, not particularly gently, but I'm not really probably going to resell him in the future, so that kind of mutilation really doesn't lower the value for me. He's got some head articulation. He's got an expression that's different. He's real angry. He has the appearance of the little armor thing here, but nothing happens. If you want to replicate that, his whole chest pops open for transformation, and he has the armor piece, and it does slide out. See, and then you can do that. Not as convenient, not as gimmicky. The tip of the tank blaster here comes off, so you can attach this to. Apparently, you can attach it to like posts on his hand, and you can do like a shockwave thing. I don't know. I don't remember doing that in the show, but then I didn't watch much of the show. He does not have his knife gimmick. He doesn't even have a port there. All of his, on the other one where they were all plugs that stuck out, instead he's got portholes for things to plug into. He can walk now, right? He's got leg articulation, full deal, so nice ratcheting and everything. None of these little gimmicks on the sides that he had, though. Not the claw, not any of that kind of stuff. Doesn't have the knife. He doesn't have. He's got these parts up in the shoulder because they open up for transformation, but he doesn't have any of these other things that did stuff before, so he's lost a lot of those. One of the biggest things that bugs me is that even though they gave him the ability to walk, they took away his shoulder articulation. So he's got that, and he's got that, but he can't do much else with his arms. And these constantly, like, they constantly flip down. They don't clip up here. Like, there's no way to lock them in. I saw some reviews about it, and I thought, oh, maybe the guy just missed it, because sometimes that happens with reviewers. But no, it's a constant source of annoyance, honestly, now. And he's got the swing out tank part here, but it only goes to there. And they both have the gimmick where they can swing around the tank part in the middle to be on his chest to do like a huge cannon thing, which looked really awful in the show, and the toy just it replicates it very well, but it looks dumb in my personal opinion. So, but you can do that, and he still has the ability to add the pieces from Tidal Wave, because the original you could take Tidal Wave apart and put on his arms and his chest and stuff and give him like this super mode. The new Titan class Tidal Wave that came out for this line has pieces that you can do that for these as well. I haven't done it yet. I probably should do. I have an original Tidal Wave from the series, and I have the new one, so I should probably gimmick up each one to see how they look with it. But I gotta think, which one of these really is better? Did they really do a better job with this one than the original? Yeah, the new one can walk. The old one can't. But this one can move all of his shoulders around, and his arms have full motion and things like that. No, yeah, this one. This one can move all of his shoulders around. This is the old one. And this one can't. This one has a ton of gimmicks and ports and all kinds of just neat stuff that as a kid, you're just like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is crazy. This one doesn't. He's got a lot of plugs, so you can plug in weapons and you can plug in all kind of other stuff, This one came with a Minicon. This one didn't. So, is the new one really better? I'm kind of torn, to be honest. And size-wise, the old one is a little bit bigger, which isn't a big deal for me, because scale over the years has always been kind of one of those things where it just depends on what you have and what you're trying to compare it to. I like the new scaling structure that they've gone with for most of the recent figures. So I'm not going to complain about that it's a little smaller, because it fits in with the other figures from the line. But I don't know. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. And I don't think that there would be a way, because these are pinned in. They're pinned. So I don't think there would be a way to modify this to get them to turn. You would have to disassemble that entire shoulder unit. And the pin is part of, well, maybe not, because that can turn out, but it's probably part of the hinging assembly in the shoulder here for the arm. So, but look at this. He can move his shoulders around. He can be dynamic in his posing. Yeah, he can't walk, of course. But was there just not was there no way to incorporate any of that in a better way? I don't know. I've got a few other figures that I'm kind of on the fence about. Most of the time they do figures better. Most of the time the new figures are better than the old figures. Most of the time I enjoy them better, because as a kid I always wanted them to be able to walk around. I always wanted something like this that couldn't walk around to have the capability of the other one. I always wanted my old figures to be able to move and jump and pose and really get dynamic. And while the new one can mostly do that, it's got that thing with the shoulders, and it lost all of its other little interesting gimmicks that made it a fun figure. It doesn't have the other little figure that it came with, which isn't a huge deal because I wasn't to the whole, mini-con concept as far as the show was concerned, but it was neat to have a bonus. I don't know. He didn't come with any other accessories, to be honest. The only thing he's got is that. Like, I should check the box and see if he comes with like a little knife. Because I seem to remember a reviewer maybe saying that he has a little knife that you can put in there, but it's not the same. It's not the same gimmick. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. For all of their similarities, their differences are just kind of frustrating. Let me know what you think. Let me know what figures that you have that are new that are just not better than what the old ones are. Or tell me why, even if maybe they're not better, why you would prefer to have them. Because there is a case to be made for having the updates, regardless of whether they're better or not. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Catch you folks next time.